We teach the non-narrative because really it's a really powerful tool for people themselves to tell their own stories. This is their capstone project. They get to put it all together in this documentary piece, and we find this is a very effective way to kind of see what the students have learned. First, you have to find your subject.
Okay, cool. Do you have like your email address, and I could shoot you our information? We can make contact that way. Thank you so much. I look forward to hanging out with you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Yeah, touchdown.
Okay. Well, we have a very tight shooting window, so it might not work out if that's the kind of the timing that we're looking at. But all right, thank you. Take care. Bye. Well, everything's has to be approved by a manager, or there's a PR person, or they're closed. I mean, it's all a myriad of things, but it's just normal life stuff that anybody would run into when they're trying to figure out a story idea. We found 2 places. We're like, oh yeah, closed.
And then of course there's having to make sure that you can coordinate it with a willing participant.
That's like the first thing we're checking now. Yeah, are they open? First criteria.
It is all about being flexible, and it's not always about doing the stories that you want to do necessarily. For us, the first story that we tried to get and book, it just worked out that way.
Hi, how are you? My name's Andrew, and I'm an instructor at the
But we didn't plan on that. We had a backup, and another backup, and a backup to that backup. So it's all about making sure you're prepared.
Nobody's picking up, sorry.
If you know a lot about the subject, it makes it obviously a lot easier. But if you don't know much about martial arts or Tai Chi or Kung Fu, then you really need to go in depth and research the subject. Wikipedia, various articles, their Facebook page, YouTube, just to learn more about it. So right now we have figured out a location for our doc. Now we're just kind of trying to hone in onto what we want to focus on for the story. Planning is super important. When you go forward with a plan, you just have a better idea of what your focus should be, what your shooting focus should be, what your questioning focus should be. Everything is going to be centered around what you and your teammates decide what that focus is going to be. And when you're all on the same page, it just makes it a lot easier to put together. Even before we spoke with anybody on the phone, any pre-interviews, we had an idea of what our focus was going to be. Health and wellness. As we're interviewing and we learn more about the characters that are involved in the story, we know that there's something that's always going to tie it back together, and ultimately that's what the story ended up becoming. So in my mind, I have a mental checklist, opening shot, closing shot, cutaways, a working interview, different camera angles. Do we have the sequences that can help tell and move the story along? And so in my mind, I have these kind of, a mental checklist of all the things that I want to incorporate. It's important to kind of have an idea of who's doing what, because you don't want people duplicating the same efforts. When we got in there, we assigned, okay, who are the shooters? Who's asking the questions? Who's shooting what? Are you shooting the cutaways? Are you shooting the interviews? So we all had an idea, and we were all on the same page. And it just made it a lot easier. That way there was less confusion, and there was also just an idea of what we needed, and we could check those things off the list as we got them. The interview is super important. There's no script. You can't write it. They're the ones that are telling the story. It's not only important to have questions at the ready, but also for you to pay attention and to listen. As you're asking these questions, you may hit a nerve. That point where they get a little bit more emotional. They start really reflecting and thinking about things. Then you can get some more real, genuine feedback from them. And then you finally find, oh, you know what? There's a little nugget in there. There's a little human side in there that maybe I should go look and search and dig deeper and try to reveal. You know, it is really daunting kind of looking at everything that you did that day, all your audio, all your video, but you want to make sure that you plan out what you want to say. And you want to have a really dynamic opening, and you want something at the end that really kind of ties in all together what it is that you want to say. And then everything else in the middle, you know, it's fairly flexible. All the audio that I picked was, you know, had to do with the theme of health and wellness. But, you know, ultimately you want a strong beginning and you want that end to kind of just like tie it all together. For me, I start listening and try to find the parts that I find most interesting, things that he said that really can, you know, strike a chord with, you know, not only me, but with a lot of other people. And then I also try to find a good soundbite at the very beginning, a strong soundbite at the beginning that just grabs people's attention. And then let me find another soundbite here that, you know, just really ties up everything that we want to say. Everything else in the middle can tie into what's said in the beginning and what's said at the end, but you know what, it always wants to tie back into the main theme of what we decided we wanted the story to be about. For me, what a good documentary contains is when I can kind of feel it, when I get engrossed, when I get really engaged, and I kind of almost forget that I'm watching a story. We're humans, right? And what we want is we want that human connection. The docs or the emotions that I connect with most are the ones that I know and I acknowledge that I felt myself. So you want to try to get that kind of feeling out of your subject matter experts or the people that are involved in the story. When people see that and hear that and feel it, they connect with it. You know, when students think about a product, sometimes they are so worried about the grade sheet, what's on the grade sheet. But, you know, ultimately when they leave the schoolhouse, your audience doesn't have a grade sheet. They're not looking for that. They're looking for a connection to the story. To get that connection, you know, you can't be afraid to just try something new. You gotta try something different. You gotta be bold. You gotta be creative. And have fun. Don't live by the grade sheet. You know, try something new.